Welcome to Media Pod Smash. It's a special treat because I have two special guests with me tonight, Damon and Mike.
Hi.
Hi, Jeremy.
How are you guys?
Doing good.
I'm great.
Good. It's really good to have you in studio. We're here for kind of a special occasion to talk about some special projects that you guys are working on. Well, one specific special project. And first of all, though, before we get into it, I know the audience might be wondering where they've seen you. I know you've been in a few projects here and there with Media Pod Smash. You know, we've done the Mysteries From Beyond, and we've done a couple other podcast episodes together. But if you want to still just introduce yourselves a little bit.
Okay, I'm Damon Schneider, and I actually was Jeremy's film professor at UW-Waukesha.
I'm Mike Putchel, and I'm in the film club I was in the film club with everybody back at UW-Waukesha, and we've been through a lot as members of the Media Pod Smash Mysteries From Beyond.
That's for sure. We've died a lot.
Well, maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
Okay, so before we jump into talking about your current endeavors, I thought I'd go through a quick rapid fire question, series of questions, just to kind of get into some icebreakers.
Okay.
So the first question is, do you collect things?
Do I collect things? I collect movies, for sure. What about you, Mike?
I used to. I used to collect Blu-rays, DVDs, die-cast cars, 1/18 scale cars, lots of those Puzz 3D things. You remember those?
Yeah.
I wish they'd bring those back. I actually asked the company to bring the skyscrapers back, but they didn't do it. But I stopped collecting things. I don't really do that anymore.
I used to, back in the day, work at a Hollywood video store in Oshkosh. And this is when I had access to free movies, so I would buy a lot of blank DVDs and burn the films. And I think I probably have close to 2,000. So,
Wow.
All
right. Well, next question is, who would you cast as who in the film club movie? And originally, when I was thinking about this question, I thought of all four of us, but it has since expanded to all past members of our film club from its most active years, which would have been when?
2000. Well, you guys joined in 2009 through like 2011.
Yeah.
So pretty much. So yeah, we were out with Derek Pfister once, out to eat, and I think I mentioned it would be great to get everyone together again. And Derek came up with this Photoshop picture of all of us, and then Mike, you turned that into a Christmas card.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried to include everyone who was in that Christmas card. So there are other people that were a part of the film club in other years. So this isn't a slight to you whatsoever, but these are the people that are on the Christmas card. So my list then is so Purple Coat is we call him. This was a guy who he was significantly older than the rest of the film students. I think he was probably my age or maybe even a little older. And he would show up at our film events wearing a coat that was fur and it was purple. So that's what we called him, the Purple Coat guy. And I have him as Tom Cruise.
Oh, wow. That's really nice.
Then myself, I have as Matthew Broderick. What do you think of that choice?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy, I have as Matthew Lillard from the Scream movie, the first Scream movie. Derek, I have as Zac Efron. Mike, I have as Jerry O'Connell.
Do you want to explain a little bit the Derek one? I'm not seeing Zac Efron as Derek at all.
He seems like he's like kind of a happy-go-lucky guy, and that's kind of how I see Derek. He's always has a smile on his face, always treats everyone well. So,
Okay.
America, I have as Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that one. I think that would be fitting.
Amanda, I have as Reese Witherspoon. Corbin, I have as Vince Vaughn. So Corbin was sort of the Joker, always laughing kind of Vince Vaughn type. Linda, I have as Michelle Rodriguez. And then Josh, I have as Seth Green.
Okay.
And Karen, I have as Sharon Stone. And then Sean Moynihan, was that his?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple years into the film club, we were approached to sort of do a film fest with, at the time it was known as Firestarter Films. And I think even they won like an award. A Milwaukee magazine named them like Filmmakers of the Year at one point, like during this period that we knew them. And they were cool guys. And they helped us out a lot for free. And we're still in touch with a lot of them, especially Derek is still in touch with a lot of them. So Sean was sort of the head of Firestarter, and I have him as Matthew McConaughey. And then Rex Sykes, I have as Wilford Brimley. And then Phil, I have as Jake Gyllenhaal, and that is just based off of what was the movie where he was
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler, because so he's sort of a journalist who's always filming, so that was kind of so that's my list. What about Mike? What about you?
Well, I was saying earlier before we started recording that I guess I was taking this much more seriously because I need to like find people who really could play the person. Because some of those you said, like Tom Cruise for who was
Purple
Tom?
Coat.
I'm not seeing that at all. So I need to
He was a
spend
good
more
looking
time.
guy. That's what I'm trying to say.
So yeah, I don't have too many right now. Maybe I'll put them in a comment section or something if I think more deeply. I need more time.
Jeremy, what about you?
Well, I got some of them. I left my list back at the dining room table, but I'll try to remember what I said. Like for you, Crispin Glover, I think would be a good one.
Crispin Glover.
Mike.
He was he in Back to the Future?
Mm-hmm.
Like take your damn hands off of her. Or whatever.
Yeah. And Mike, maybe like Andrew Santino.
Who's that?
That guy from Dave, and he's a stand-up comedian. I can't remember what else he's been in.
The guy from Dave.
Yeah, the show Dave.
I'm not familiar with that. I'll look into that.
Yeah.
He's a comedian?
Yeah. And he's got a podcast.
I remember, Jeremy, you once said that you thought Mike reminded you of someone who had a British sitcom or something like that, like someone who was on a British sitcom. Like
I don't know.
You remember saying that?
No, I don't remember saying that.
like maybe Mr. Bean or something. You guys know Mr. Bean?
Yeah,
I could see like being Mr. Bean.
Yeah, definitely get a British vibe
You get a British vibe from me.
your humor. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Derek, I think, would be like, I don't know. Who was the guy from Prison Break with the shaved head?
oh.
That guy.
I don't know his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you could be that guy. Phil would be Ernest.
Ernest. So Mike is unfamiliar with any of the Ernest movies, and there's like probably like 30 of them.
Well, were these like wide release distributions?
I mean,
They were like, I think they were straight to video.
Okay.
But there was a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't know him.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what about like America and Amanda?
yeah. I mean, I think your choices were pretty spot on for them. You said Reese Witherspoon for
Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say maybe like Kristen Bell for Amanda.
Yeah, yeah.
And then America, I think I agree with your casting choice for America. Corbin, I would say Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Myself, I actually put Jesse Eisenberg for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember thinking back in the day that I thought that you look like Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah.
I used to have the really curly Jesse Eisenberg hair too. But yeah, I mean those are really all the ones I could think of. Fur coat guy really just needs to be fur coat guy. No one can go that deep.
Right, right.
What would the movie be that we cast?
It'd have to be like us trying to pull off some big production. It should actually
Probably
be
the film fest, right?
That-
Like the
yeah.
first film fest, because then that would involve Phil and all the ones. Yeah, yeah. I would pay to see that movie for sure.
That'd be a good movie. Yeah.
Well, when I think of the movie, if it would be made, I envision it like being like a Christopher Guest movie,
Okay. Yeah.
where, because that's kind of what he did. He did like local people, like with Best in Show and Waiting for Guffman. So I envision it kind of in that style of humor too.
Yeah.
There are a couple characters that would be missing from that night, though. In particular, a Mr. person that we
Oh yeah. Yeah.
don't like to say his name often, but who would play that person?
Oh, I'm thinking like who was that? Oh man. I could picture him in my head right now. I can't think of the dude's name. He was he was big in the '90s.
Steve Buscemi?
No, not Steve. That's a good one too, though.
Because that guy was sort of rat-like.
Yeah, but it's like definitely. Oh man, I can't think of it.
And then the other one I was going to say is the woman who showed up with the candy.
She
And she, instead of one of the women, she was going to be a sponsor, local chocolate store, and rather than bringing what you would bring to an event like free chocolate, she was just selling her chocolate. So who would play her?
Julia Roberts for that woman.
Okay, well, in her defense, did we ever talk to her about bringing free candy?
I thought it was just understood that it was like that's what you do for when you're giving to a school kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we give her a hard time. Every time we talk about this, she's given a hard time. I thought she was fine.
Well, that's why we were going to give her such an excellent actress to
I
play
guess.
her.
I actually have somebody for He Who Should Not Be Named. I was thinking kind of like Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, that's a good one.
For him?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when like some of the roles where he's angrier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I think we can move on to our next question here. Of all the big horror icons, who is most likely to win in a giant last man standing battle royale?
Of all the horror icons?
Yeah, like the most popular horror icons.
Well, this in some ways this has been there was a film called Freddy versus Jason that sort of got to the heart of this matter. I suppose nowadays you'd probably add Ghostface as well.
I mean, I would even like. What about Pinhead? And like,
yeah, Pinhead was scary. Who would win? Who do I want to win? I'd probably. I guess I would probably say Jason still. Yeah.
okay. What about you, Mike?
Well, wouldn't we need to lay out who are the icons?
I mean, you've got Freddy, Jason, Scream Guy, Ghostface, Pinhead, Leatherface, Chucky.
So more like actual people. Well, kind of. I mean, Chucky's not
slash
really a person.
entities. Yeah. I mean, you could even say like.
Because like, remember they did Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
Are those considered horror icons, or is that just more science fiction?
I would still put them in the horror icon category.
Yeah.
Then I would have to say Alien.
Okay.
Because, like, nothing beats Alien.
That's
For
true.
sure.
Alien's pretty badass.
But, blood as acid and stuff like that. Like, for sure. Yeah, Alien would win easy.
Well, yeah, I'm not familiar with all of those characters like Pinhead. I've never seen any of those. The Hellraiser movies. Even the Nightmare on Elm Street, I haven't really seen much of. So, I don't know. What do you think?
I think if somehow we could get all the other opponents to fall asleep, then Freddy would have a good chance.
Oh,
But-
yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I think, I guess I'd have to agree with Damon with the Alien. I mean, it does kind of like cut through all the rest of the competition there,
Yeah.
if Alien's included. But otherwise, I like Jason. So I'm kind of biased in that way.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, you love Jason. Yeah. We encountered him.
Yeah, it's true.
One of the few survivors.
Yeah. So, okay. I guess that's that covers our 3 questions, and now we can get to the heart of the matter, which is your podcast. So, briefly describe. Sorry, go ahead.
So, I'll just take the mic. I guess the best way I can describe it is when I was 15 years old, I was in high school in electronics class, and we were listening to the radio as we did when we did our lab assignments. And the announcer came on, and the person said, this guy in Green Bay was found in a pulp vat with a 50-pound weight wrapped around his neck, and he was killed by his coworkers. And I was just sort of struck cold in that moment, kind of shocked, and I followed the case about as much as a 15-year-old is going to follow the case. Now, at the time, what happened was there wasn't a lot of evidence to convict these guys, so a long time passed before their trials happened. And the O.J. Simpson trial just happened to be going on at the same time, so a lot of this got a lot of people didn't tune into this. And I was aware that they were convicted. I remember vaguely that it was said that they were a part of a union, and they all stuck together, and they wouldn't talk because they were all in this union. And then about the time I graduated college, one of them was released. A man named Mike Piaskowski, and the judge basically said that there was no evidence tying this guy to the murder of Tom Monfils, which is the person who was found in the pulp vat. And again, I was graduating from college, and I just thought that was weird. I thought to myself, well, if Mike Piaskowski was innocent, that means all of them were innocent. I didn't understand how they weren't all innocent if he was let out. And then I forgot about the case. And then last April, a friend of mine got me a ticket to the Milwaukee Film Fest. And it was actually for like a noon show, and I'm not really into going to movies early. I don't like to go to movies unless it's at night, and so I didn't really want to go. But it was a free ticket, and I was intrigued because it was a documentary about Tom Monfils, and so I thought, well, that's interesting. I remember that name for sure. That was a guy who they found in the pulp vat, and so I went to the documentary, and it was kind of interesting because some of the major players who were involved, like the district attorney and the lead detective who basically brought them all down, were there, and so I got to see them firsthand and got to see their account of things. And then, of course, I watched the film. It was a documentary called Beyond Human Nature, and I was hit with a whole bunch of names. There's six. The Monfils 6, there were 6 men that were convicted of killing Tom Monfils. And then beyond that, their spouses and children, and all these detective names. And so there was just so many names, and I couldn't remember that, from 1995 and things like that. So my head was just kind of spinning. But what I remember is, after watching the documentary, that I thought there was a very good chance that the Monfils 6 were not guilty of the murder of Tom Monfils. And I wanted to see if there was extra material out there on the case, and there was. So I ordered a book on Amazon called The Monfils Conspiracy. So the authors, Dennis Gullickson and John Gay, they met Mike Piaskowski in 2001, and they decided to write this book, and they spent 7 years researching and interviewing people, and they did a very, very thorough job in doing so. And after reading the book, I'm convinced of the Monfils 6 innocence, and so I decided to do a podcast to try to spread that word. Now, obviously, they're all out of jail at this time. Keith Kutzka was the last one released. He was released in August. But their names are still sullied, and I think it's important to clear their names. A lot of them still live in the Green Bay area, and I guess that's the goal of this podcast, is to clear the names of the Monfils 6. So with that, I'll let Mike sort of describe the podcast and how he sees it.
Well, that was a very thorough explanation of everything. I think you covered really what we're looking to do here. So, I mean, you and I, we host the show, and then we spend, typically each episode is one chapter of the book. Sometimes we divide it up a little bit more if it's a longer chapter, but we're really just going in order of the book. And then we also have information from the movie that you mentioned, the documentary. And then we incorporate our own thoughts on what we think really is going on here, and we encourage the listeners to do the same.
I should mention, too, I have formulated my own theory on how Monfils died, and it does not correspond with this book. So if you want my theory, you'll have to listen to each episode. We actually, about 3 hours goes into each episode to produce a 30-minute episode. So it is labor intensive, but it's a labor of love. And again, going back to me being 15 years old in my electronic class and hearing that for the first time, it's something that I I want to solve. I want to know the truth about what happened to Tom Monfils. And I think there are one or two people that do know for sure. And maybe at some point we could reach out to some of those people and see if we could have them on the podcast as well. And they could give their thoughts as to what happened. But again, like tonight's episode that we recorded here with MediaPod Smash, we did the chapter on the Tom Monfils' body being found the day of when he was found on the pulp vat. And so we go through in detail and describe how his body was found and the coroner, what she thought, and our thoughts on whether or not she did a good job at the time. So it's something that, again, comes out every other Friday. And we hope that you listen and give us a try. I think we're not professional podcasters, but I think we're getting better with each episode. And I think I believe this is the greatest miscarriage of justice in the history of the state of Wisconsin. And I believe this is a much more impactful case than even Netflix's Making a Murderer, which focused on Stephen Avery. And I do think the Monfils six are innocent.
Why do you think it's not getting the spotlight that some of the other cases are getting?
Well, let me ask. I'll throw that back on you and Mike. Did you ever hear of Tom Monfils before I brought that name up?
I personally didn't.
Yeah, exactly. It happened in 1992, so that was sort of before the internet. You know, I consider the release of Windows 95 to be sort of the time when the internet really took off and people were getting on it. So it took place a couple years before that. And again, the O.J. Simpson trial overshadowed it. And I think that if more people were aware of it, this will be a Netflix miniseries at some point, I believe. It has to be. Because so many people's lives were ruined, and it's just such an enthralling story that this guy essentially he's killed over a piece of electrical cord, and his body's found in a pulp vat, and 6 people go to prison for decades, and then their wives divorce them, and their children grow up without a father. And I see it. Someone has to make this into a multi-parted Netflix series or streamer series, something like that.
And as we wrap up here, just the name of the podcast and where people can find it.
The name of the podcast is the Monfils 6. And Jeremy, Mike, where can they find us?
Lots of places. So YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. There's a couple others. Do you remember? iHeartRadio. Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the major podcast directories we're on. Again, we don't claim to be professionals, but this is an important story, and we're getting better each week. So give us a shot, give us a listen, and you might just find out who killed Tom Monfils.
Cool. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jeremy.